Hey, what's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another video. Again, late. Sorry, it's Memorial Day. Got a lot going on. My daughter's sick. Anyway, that's all beside the point. Today, we're talking about One Piece chapter 1050. And honestly, I think I got some similar feelings to the last couple chapters. I did like it, but there were a couple things that, kind of just felt a little off or weird or lackluster or whatever you want to call it. But anyway, 1050, we're going to start off with the cover story. So yes, it was Reiju and Niji, or Ichiji, excuse me, that were coming to save Niji and Ichiji. No, Niji and Yonji. There we go. All these names. 1 and girl came to save 2 and 4. Okay. Anyway, yeah. So it was them. A lot of people theorized about who it was possibly going to be at the end. This was the most obvious answer, and Oda decided to go in the most obvious route. So I guess there was really no point in overthinking that. Kind of just is what it is. So yeah, a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, but a couple people were kind of confused as to why exactly they would do this. Considering the fact that, Ichiji at least doesn't have any feelings. He probably feels no sympathy or reason to go and rescue his brothers, but in the end, it was probably Reiju and Judge's decision. After all the things that went down at the tea party, it's probably pretty safe to say that Judge did not want Big Mom having any German technology in her possession. So, of course, Reiju and Ichiji go to save their brothers just to make sure that Big Mom isn't able to, or the Big Mom pirates, not her specifically, but they aren't able to, dissect them and possibly reverse engineer whatever it is that makes them so special. So, of course, they had to go and rescue their brothers. I'm not mad at it. It is what it is. Nothing really too special happening there. But, maybe sort of like with the Pound cover story, something interesting might happen at the end. Who knows? But anyway, so far it's pretty straightforward. It is what it is. Nothing really stands out. But on to the chapter. So we start this chapter off with seeing, I believe, Otoko and Swords guy. I can never remember his name, but they're at the flower festival still throwing up lanterns, throwing up lanterns like they're gang signs. And Otoko basically has a little flashback about her adopted father, Yasui. I dropped something. And some of the last things that, he said to her, some of her most recent or fond memories of him. Not really too important. Nothing of note was really said, as far as nothing really concerning the grand, overarching story, or the Straw Hats or anything like that. But we do get to see them sort of hanging out. The theory that I had, or that a lot of people had, about the lanterns, like the releasing of the lanterns happening simultaneously with the falling of Onigashima, that apparently hasn't happened. Apparently still to this day, to this very moment, I should say, no one in the Flower Capital is aware of what just happened on Onigashima. The island is practically right there from what we can tell, and still no one's noticed, no one sees it. Not sure if there's maybe some weather interfering, or if everybody's just so drunk that maybe they're just not even paying attention. I don't think Otoko's drunk, but either way, it seems like nobody's noticed. One thing that's kind of interesting that happens is that Big Mom and Kaido both apparently landed in relatively close locations, which makes sense considering they both fell from Onigashima. But when they fell, they both went straight down into what looks like the core of not the earth, the island, like the very base of the island. Because remember, Wano is sort of on a mountain top, right? It's like up at the top of this. It's almost like a tepui. I don't know if anybody here is familiar with the tepuis in South America, but they're like those mountains that are flat at the top, like Up. If you ever seen Up, that scenery is based off of the. Anyway, Wano is on like a flat plateau at the top of a mountain, right? So, the holes that Big Mom and Kaido essentially drilled down into the earth with their bodies as they were, that sounded terrible, but the holes that they created from being knocked down onto the island from Onigashima have both reached the base of that sort of mountain that Wano is on top of. So they're both right there next to each other, and something interesting is happening. So before we get to that, I want to say Momo is sort of not he's not recovered fully, but he's back up and conscious and moving around. He's not laying on the ground exhausted anymore. And one of the first things that he does is he talks to Zunisha, and he tells Zunisha, hey, everything's good. We defeated Kaido, and we're not opening the borders of Wano yet. Right? Which is kind of like weird, and everybody's confused. Well, Zunisha's like, okay, whatever, your orders are your orders. And Zunisha starts to turn around. I have so many questions. Like, who ordered Zunisha to come to Wano in the first place? Was it Momonosuke when they were on Zou? Because we never got to see the conclusion of that conversation between the two of them. Also, I mean, was Zunisha just walking to Wano the whole time? If so, where is it going now? Right? Like, so many questions. Was Zunisha always by Wano? Who knows? Like, again, so many questions. And Momonosuke apparently, in saying we're not opening the borders yet, and and Zunisha turns around, suggests that Momonosuke planned on having Zunisha be the one to open the borders of Wano. And if the borders that they're talking about is that barrier, that waterfall barrier that surrounds the island, I guess Momo was planning to have Zunisha destroy that so that, you know, people could freely, I guess, get to that elevator that goes up to the flower capital, so they could get up to Wano a lot easier. But then that begs the question of, you know, how were those waterfalls like that the whole, like, always, or did somebody do that, right? And now when you start thinking about that, that brings up questions like, okay, was the red line maybe created in a similar way, right? So, and Reverse Mountain, right? Because Reverse Mountain is the same thing. You have to go up the waterfall. Well, the waterfall goes up, but still you have to go up the waterfall and then come back down to get into the Grand Line. Similar to, you know, Wano. So that's like, it brings up a lot of questions and theories in itself. Excuse me. But anyway, Zunisha turns around and starts walking away, and it's just like, whatever, your orders are your orders. Which is interesting. It fully recognizes Momonosuke as like its master. So again, got to see whatever the rest of that conversation was, or at least know about whatever they talked about. And you know, we kind of cut away from that conversation. Later on, as Luffy is still on the ground, it is announced eventually that the winner between the fight is revised. They say the previous announcement is revised. The winner of the battle between Straw Hat Luffy and Kaido is Straw Hat Luffy. And then, you know, obviously everybody cheers, Luffy won, yay, it's over. And the island is lowered down to the ground now. Momo, like I said in the last chapter, created the flame clouds. We're seeing flashes of everybody in Onigashima celebrating. And while they're celebrating, we also see little clips of Big Mom and Kaido. And where they are, we don't get to see them. We see their silhouettes, right? And they look like they're surrounded by earth, or maybe even magma or lava or something like that. But it's breaking apart. Like the area that Big Mom and Kaido are in underground is starting to shatter, right? And now, in the midst of the celebrations, both in the Flower Capital and on Onigashima, we start to see people say, oh, there's something happening. Is it an earthquake, right? And they're worried about the ground shaking. And it seems to be emanating from where Big Mom and Kaido are. Now, it's not clear whether they are causing this themselves, like on purpose, or if this is just a reaction from the two holes that were created from them being driven down into the ground. We don't really see them move or anything like that. Again, it's just the area around them is fracturing. So from there, it looks like the waterfall actually starts to break apart. So Momo's plan to not open the borders of Wano it seems to be irrelevant at this point, because it looks like, again, like I said, that outer barrier of waterfalls around Wano is starting to crumble apart, at least on one side. So those waterfalls are toast, regardless of whether Zunisha destroys them or not. We still haven't gotten any type of confirmation as far as like the status of the world government ships outside of Wano. I assume that there's still at least a couple of them still out there. I'm sure Zunisha destroyed most of them, if not all. After that, we sort of cut back to the Skull Dome and outside of Onigashima, and a couple of the Beast Pirates are still wanting to fight. Yamato is basically standing there like just give up. Like, you guys are fodder. Your headliners are gone. The Tobi Roppo are done. Kaido's done. Like, you can't. The guys that are left on this side will wipe you all out. There's no point. And while they're arguing, this earthquake thing keeps happening. So I guess we kind of just ignore that. They do show Babanuki and like people around Wano like, oh my God, is it an earthquake? So if they don't really go into depth about that, I guess that's going to be a next chapter thing. But from there, we move on to the Flower Capital, and Momonosuke is there. He's still in dragon form. He's flown over there, and he's like, hey, everybody, we won. And they're just like, oh my God, it's Kaido. And they all start running away in fear, as you would expect. I guess they haven't noticed that Kaido has turned from blue to pink. Maybe they're just too drunk and scared to really think much about that, which makes sense. I mean, you know, the 20 years that they've endured, pretty much any dragon is bad news at this point. So Momo's like, no, it's me. I'm not Kaido. Kaido's done. Luffy defeated him. And people were like, sort of like hesitant. Like, they're still running away, but they're kind of just like, what is he like? What is he saying? Like, you know, he is pink. He's not blue. Maybe is this guy different? So then, from beneath Momo, we see him start to sort of transform back. Right? There's a lot of like smoke and steam and stuff like that. But from beneath Momo, we can see Komurasaki. So Komurasaki, aka Hiyori, reappears, and other people are like, "Oh, Komurasaki, we thought you were dead. What's going on? What's up, girl? You look good." And she's just like, "Hey, yeah, I'm alive." And other people are like, "What is this? What's happening?" And then Kanjuro pops up, and they're just like, "Oh, what are you doing here, Kiyoshiro? What we thought you. Where's your pompadour? What happened to your hair? What's going on here? Komurasaki's alive. Your hair is different. So much is happening." So Kiyoshiro is like, all right, look, there's a lot to explain. A lot happened. But first, allow me to introduce the new Shogun of Wano. And that's it. That's where the chapter ends. Now, like I said, we can sort of see some stuff happening behind Kiyoshiro and Hiyori. And it's suggested that this is Momonosuke transforming back into a person. So I'm assuming next chapter, we will not only see adult Momonosuke, but also the full, I guess, aftermath of whatever is going on with Big Mom and Kaido and these crackling waterfalls at the border of the country. Like I said, not too much really happens in this chapter. We're sort of, you can tell that Oda is really trying to wrap this thing up. A lot of things are happening at the same time, as opposed to one thing after another, like we typically get. So it seems like next chapter is going to be the big conclusion, where the entire country of Wano, not just the people on Onigashima, but everybody in the nation finds out Kaido has been defeated and that they're free. So I didn't dislike the chapter. I did like it. But like I said, with the Kaido flashback and with some other things from the last couple chapters, it seems a little bit rushed, which I'm not mad at. Like, from a reader's perspective, it's not a great read, but from a One Piece fan's perspective, knowing what's to come, ahead of this, I am excited. I am happy that, I didn't dislike Wano. I loved Wano, but it's long. Like, it's the longest arc that we've had thus far, right? So I am happy that the story is moving forward. Could it have been done in a little bit better way? Maybe. I don't know. Who am I to tell Oda what to do? But there are a couple things in this chapter and in the last couple chapters that I think could have just been fleshed out a little bit more, maybe a little bit more explanation, or maybe even just a little bit more action, right? Like a little bit more visuals of like what's actually happening and going on and things like that. Like for instance with this whole thing with Kaido and Big Mom, what's happened? Did they call, like, did them literally falling into the ground and creating these huge holes, did that create some type of like tremor or seismic shift or something like that? Like what exactly is going on? Again, we'll probably find out later, but it would have been nice to just know now. I don't feel like that's something that's really critical information, like what the One Piece is, or how Joy Boy died or anything like that. Like that's something that you could just tell us. It's not going to take away from what ends up happening from it. But anywho, all in all, I would say this chapter, I'd probably give it like a 7 out of 10. Not a terrible chapter. I did enjoy it, but very much like move things along, set things up for the future chapter. So I'm not mad at it. I liked it. You guys can let me know what you thought about it in the comments. Make sure to leave a like if you liked the video. Make sure to subscribe if you want to see more content. Also, be sure to follow me on my socials. I'll have them linked below. Linked below. Yeah, I can talk. I know English, kind of. I have them linked below. You can follow me on Twitter and on Instagram. But yeah, man, like I said, let me know what you thought. I gave it a 7 out of 10. If you give it a higher or lower score, tell me. But yeah, man, all in all, not bad. Not bad. Good chapter.